Take it away.
Hey everybody, welcome to the JT's Pit Stop. We got Joe and we got Adam.
There
I
you go.
told you guys I was gonna mess it
Yep.
up, but anyway, we got Joe Yanks over there, down there, and we got Adam over there, and we're gonna talk to you today about the great race we saw at Las Vegas and the Cup Series and all of the series that we had today. Take it away, Joe.
All right. Well, this weekend we had the Pennzoil 400 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and at the end of the day, it was William Byron taking home his first win of the season for Hendrick Motorsports. But it was a long road to get there, and there was plenty of drama on the way. The drama started before the cars even hit the track for the weekend. Chase Elliott had suffered a leg injury with a snowboarding accident. So he was out this weekend. Josh Berry was filling in the 9 car this weekend. Um, and I felt like he did a pretty good job being his first attempt in the Cup Series with a good ride. He obviously wasn't as fast as his other teammates throughout the day, but for such a sudden experience, not having any laps with the next gen car, I felt like Josh Berry did a pretty good job. What would you guys think of Josh Berry's performance in Las Vegas?
Um, I thought he did a okay job.
Yeah,
Um, I had the NASCAR scanner, and I listened to him the entire race because usually I listen to Chase
yeah,
as a Chase Elliott fan. Um, but the main thing he kept saying on the radio was basically that the car was better than the driver, which he was just being realistic because
right.
it was the first time he's ever been in the next gen car,
Yeah,
and then you look at where his teammates finished, you could kind of see that the driver was the difference in a way. But yeah, he kept saying that. And another thing he was saying was, of course, of all the races that I get to start for the first time, this one is the one that goes green the entire way in stage
right.
1 and 2. So he couldn't like catch back up and stuff like that.
Yeah,
He would fall a lap down in each stage. But at least during cautions stages, he would ask Alan and Eddie uh, for advice, including like SMT data, like asking what the 24 is doing. And they actually told him to back up the corner and get the car pointed because that's what the 24 car was good
yeah,
at. But what I found interesting, what wasn't really publicized on the broadcast, is uh, he had throttle issues in stage 3 where the spring was messing with him and it was
okay,
either not going full 100% throttle or um, it was sticking. So that hindered his stage 3. And overall, on speed, he was down, but I think it's cool that he's getting this opportunity to drive the most popular driver's car,
yeah,
which is a fast one.
yeah. And honestly, like there's not a tougher situation to you know learn how to drive a new car than a race that just goes green forever, because you don't really get that chance to sit there, reflect on what went wrong, what you could have done differently, and make those adjustments behind the wheel. When a race just has green flag forever, which this was one of those races where it just seemed like they would just go forever. It's definitely hard to kind of pick those things up in your first race with a new car.
I think he did a okay job. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Las Vegas is one of those, and watching some of the interviews afterwards, right? Like, I mean, William Byron was asked, "What do you think about Josh Berry?" Blah blah blah, and William Byron kind of had this good thing to say about him is,
Mm-hmm.
he did very good with what he was put into. Okay, never
Yeah.
driving a next gen car before, getting thrown into this opportunity. Limited. I think he had limited practice laps, if any practice laps. Not too much real time in the car, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can all sim drive, but once you get out there, it's a whole different story.
Oh, of course.
Um, William Byron said he would have done better if his first race was at Auto Club.
Yeah.
Okay, Las Vegas is a high commitment racetrack to be able to run fast at.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you commit to the corners. You are committing 100%, whereas Auto Club's a little bit more forgiving. I think Phoenix this week will be a little bit better for him. As far as like getting in there, it's not as high speed. You're not as committed to the corners. It's not as a high risk if you blow the corner because you're just braking so much going into the corners at Phoenix.
Yeah.
So as far as Josh Berry goes, I think he did a really good job at this being his first time that he went into the car. Did he finish well? No. Especially when you have a 1-2-3 finish.
Yeah.
You know, if Chase was in there, you expect him to be up there in the mix of the top three. You expect him to be at least a top five finisher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it didn't happen. Unfortunately, my man Chase is out of the race. But you know, Hendrick will keep going, and on top of, I mean, dude, I'll pull in like 4 cars real quick here, Adam.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
you know, but to be honest, like you know, um, I hope Chase does well in the recovery. I hope he's not
Yes.
out for a really long time. He's already had the surgery. He's in recovery. He's going to be back out there on the track, and you know, I think Josh is going to give it 100%. And what else would you
Mm-hmm.
ask for?
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't ask for anybody else to be put in that car
Yeah.
on an oval track or really any track, to be honest with you. Then Josh Berry. I think he's going to be a next Cup superstar when he gets his chance to be able to run there, and why not give him the experience while he can get it?
Yeah. So yeah, like we talked about, stage one of the race, there were no cautions in the first stage of the race. We did see Kyle Busch did get into the wall at one point,
Yep.
and kind of fell back a few spots. There were a couple penalties during the green flag pit stop for the 54 and the 42. Uh,
Which
and
what's up with that?
Yeah, Gregson had like I think there was issues with his tack because like every time he came down pit road, he was getting a speeding penalty.
Right.
It's just something wasn't set up right on that car, so hopefully they can get that fixed for next week. One thing I wanted to talk about was stage one, and pretty much most of the day. Where were the Fords? Because the top running Ford in stage one and two was the 6 car of Brad Keselowski, which I was happy about, but at the same time, like, where are the Fords? Like, Joey Logano started on the pole and just went to no man's land. Blaney did the same thing; he fell back. But the Fords just had nothing in that first stage. So, what do you guys think of the stage one? Obviously, we had Larson and Byron just completely had the field covered. William Byron obviously won the stage, but you know nobody was catching those Hendrick guys, and the Fords were nowhere. So, what do you guys think of stage number one of the Pennzoil 400?
I mean, I'm always happy to see Joey Logano fall to the back. Sorry, Joey hater here. I'm gonna let you know. JT Pitstop is not for Joey Logano. No, you know, I think you're onto something. There really wasn't any speed coming out of the race trim of the Fords. I don't know. I think there was a practice after qualifying, right? Like a little
Yeah,
short one. Um, I think that the Chevy guys just kind of hit on something for the race. You know, I mean, Kyle Busch getting into the wall. I think he got in the wall a couple of times. I think he also got in stage two or something. But I feel like when he got into the wall, it messed up his car.
yeah,
To go from a really good race last week to an okay performance this week,
yeah.
but I mean, he went up towards the front and then smacked the wall, and that was kind of like the end of his race at that point in time.
I
So,
mean, he didn't have a bad race. I mean, he was still like kind of
no,
in the top 10 most of the day.
Yeah.
It definitely hurt him in being able to compete with the Hendrick cars.
Right.
Adam, what did you think of stage one?
I love Hendrick Motorsports. I hate Fords, so
All right.
nothing could be better,
All
in my
right.
opinion.
All right.
But
Well,
I do have a question.
yes.
I know we both watch Denny's podcast, and he usually gives a little preview. I forgot what he said before Daytona. What he said about each manufacturer. What did he say the Ford strength was gonna be?
Um, low drag, I think.
Low drag.
Yeah, so I think the way he described it is the Chevrolets are generating the most downforce right now, but the Fords have the least drag. So the Fords will most likely be better on the restrictor plates, which we saw in Daytona, and also some of the lower, shorter tracks as well.
Okay, so the reason I bring that up is because I was trying to think. Vegas was, I think of it as a trimmed out racetrack, especially if it was
Yeah,
cool. So the fact that the Fords were struggling does not fit that. You would expect if they're trimmed out, they'll be faster, but
yeah.
maybe the wind and stuff was
Well, yeah,
wreaking
because
havoc.
the thing with
Um,
the race this weekend is it was cold and it was windy, and usually at Las Vegas you see them be able to use most of those grooves, but pretty much all day everybody was just running the bottom.
yeah, so it kind of puzzles me because if it's cold, then you expect more grip and the trimmed out cars to go fast. So
Yeah,
Um, maybe the Fords thought it was going to be warmer and came with a more downforce package than a trimmed out package, and Hendrick just decided to bring a trimmed out package this
yeah,
weekend.
You
I
know,
don't know.
yeah,
I think it's kind of interesting on your theory of what you would expect to be good at Las Vegas this weekend. Yeah, it was cold and we had a lot of wind. But when you take into consideration that Vegas is starting to get to be an old, worn out surface
yeah,
where
Mhm.
it's, and it's like, so if you talk about Daytona, right? Like when you first go to Daytona after repave, dude, you're 100% speed the whole time.
yeah,
Now they're starting to talk about handling at
yeah,
Daytona. I think that Vegas, although it's a fast track, I think they're actually starting to get to that handling point because of the bumps in turn one, because of
yeah,
the old track surface, because of the wind. You know, I think that's why if what you're saying is correct, and I'm not saying that you're not that you're lying or anything else, and I 100% believe you. But what I'm saying is that I think that the higher downforce of the Chevys, if that's what they have, is that really high downforce. I think that's why we saw the Chevys excel and the Fords. They did good in qualifying trim. They
yeah,
were fast. You know, I mean, inside row was the Fords. Pardon me, but once it came to race trim, once the tires started getting
yeah,
wore off and everything else, that's when you started to see the downforce come in.
yeah,
So, you know, now that you say that, that explains why the Fords just weren't capable of going up there and mixing it up
yeah,
like they should have been able to do.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think of Vegas as one of the more grippy tracks, but you do bring up a good point that it is
It is
aging. It
aging. Yeah,
has bumps. Um, I don't know for sure about the state of the track right now. I know it's nowhere near Fontana and the Land
no,
No,
not at all.
no, not at all.
but yeah, I don't know.
But even
I just figured I'd bring that up
I feel like
for
Vegas.
conversation.
I feel like Vegas is starting to get more like Chicagoland in a way.
yep, yep, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. Auto Club is definitely the most worn out. Uh, I don't want to say it like this, but this the only crappiest surface that we pretty much have on the schedule this year,
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's really the most worn out that there is, which is why they're trying to get rid of it, which I'm really sad about. Anyway,
yeah,
um, But Vegas is getting to have that age to where it's wearing out the tires, and you're starting to see that fall off, and you're starting to really, you know, wear on the tires, and handling is coming into effect at a place like Vegas. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still high speed. Don't get like, it's a really high speed track, but it's also a worn out. You have to be able to handle that car in order to do it. Like, how you said Josh Berry was getting told to back up the corners and get the car pointed.
Yeah.
Well, at a grippy track, it doesn't matter if you back up the corners. You get aggressive at a grippy track. At Vegas, where Byron was doing good, he was backing up the corners, getting the car to roll in the center, and then getting it off of the corner.
Yeah.
The only place you're really going to do that is when you ain't got grip.
Yeah. All right. So moving on into stage 2, there's a couple incidents in this stage. At one point, the Daniel Suarez got into Chris Buescher, kind of pushed him up into the wall a little bit. And then we also saw Josh Berry get up into the wall a little bit in stage 2. None of those actually brought out a yellow, which remember that because that's going to come into play later in the discussions. So no cautions in stage 2, and William Byron once again goes on and wins stage number 2, and we see the same story we saw from stage 1. The 24 and the 5 lights out, driving away from everybody. Only one Ford in the top 10 at the end of it, so it was pretty much a Chevrolet show with a couple of Toyotas sprinkled in there. It was mostly the same as stage 1, so what'd you guys think of stage 2?
Basically the same as stage 1.
Yeah.
Who was the highest Ford?
Brad Keselowski.
Brad Keselowski again?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was Brad because he didn't say Brad's name, so I was like,
no. But yeah, Brad got stage points in both stages, so I was happy about that.
I'm sure you were.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome to see Brad being the highest Ford. It's been a while since you've said that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Fords, you think of Penske, and
yeah,
I think Penske really dropped the ball when it came to race trim because they qualified so well. I don't think that they actually went out there and put their homework in like Chevy did. I mean, Chevy went out there. They didn't. I know that a couple of them qualified okay, but I think that they were like, hey, we're not really where we should be. Let's do some homework. And Hendrick showed up. Bush, I think he ran okay during the stage 2. But I feel like he would have been better if he didn't hit the wall like he did.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Suarez and Chris Buescher getting into each other. I mean, that was just hard racing. It's gonna happen. Go Hendrick, dude.
Yeah.
Love it. Way to come out 1-2 again.
For sure. All right, moving on into stage 3. It did not take us too long after the restart for stage 3 to run into our first on-track incident of the race. On the restart, you had probably the 3 most aggressive guys out in the field racing 3 wide for 2 laps. And then, I was watching that. I'm like, that's not going to end well. So someone's going to get the short end of that. And so you had Kyle Busch on the bottom, Brad Keselowski in the middle, Joey Logano up top, and Brad just moved up off of turn 4. And yeah, he did.
Is that how you feel about it?
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
I'm controversial.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something different.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. So from my point of view, Brad moves up the track, kind of puts Joey Logano into the wall. He spins, goes for a wild ride, gets some air time going through the front stretch, which was actually like
the Legends track.
I know.
He jumped the whole Legends track almost sideways.
That replay from behind when he just like hops over the track, I'm like, that was cool. But Joey Logano's day ended there. That was our first on-track incident of the day. So we all have differing opinions on this. So take it away, guys. Let me hear what your thoughts are on the Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano contact.
Who wants to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Trevor, you
All
go
right.
first.
So the way I see this was you had the most 3 aggressive, no F's given drivers there are on the track.
Yep.
Okay. Going for multiple laps, 3 wide. Um, Kyle Busch gave Brad Keselowski a lot of room. Okay, I'm gonna
Yep.
say that right now. All right, that's fact. The way that I seen it was that Joey came down off of the wall into Brad Keselowski. That's what I feel like happened. I am not a Joey fan, so obviously I'm going to put the blame on him. But if you watch the camera from the in-car camera,
Mhm.
you watch Joey up there, and he came off of the wall. Now, being a sim racer like we all know, we know that when you come to the end of turn 4, you kind of cut down a little bit. But I feel as though Joey took too much room. I feel like this could have went another way and this wreck wouldn't have happened if Joey didn't come 3 feet off of the wall. I feel like he could have came off of the wall a little bit. Knowing that you're 3 wide, why are you going to come off of the wall that much? You're not 2 wide. You are 3 wide. You have 2 cars on the bottom of you. And he took all of the real estate that he wanted to take there. He didn't give an F about what was going on, and he took what he wanted. I feel like that was Joey's fault, but the airtime was badass, and I didn't mind seeing Joey not finish the race.
All right, Adam, what are your thoughts?
All right. I'm going to say that nothing makes me more happy than seeing the 22 out of the race because I don't like him either. But I'm not going to put the blame on him. I'm going to put the blame on racing ultimately.
Yeah.
Basically, when you have 3 cars side by side by side, the only way that gets worse is if Stenhouse was 4 wide with them. But
True.
but I don't. I know Logano. He came off the wall, but the way the turn 4 and the beginning of the trioval is shaped at Vegas, you have to come down off the wall a little bit, or else you're
Yeah.
going to just smack the wall on
Yeah.
exit. So I think he comes down a little bit, but ultimately I think it was the racing and aero played into it. I think Keselowski, he didn't do it on purpose, but he's a
Yeah.
veteran and should know that this will happen in this situation.
Yeah.
I think he just lost the nose because of the aero,
Yeah.
and as a result, just doored Logano, which put a smile on my face. But and then I saw you send me a message say "oopsie."
I did.
So
Oops.
I just looked at it. I'm like, oh, okay, we're both in agreement that he lost the nose more than
Yeah. I mean, Brad definitely drifted up the track. I don't think it was on purpose. I don't think he was like, oh, I'm gonna just put Joey Logano on the wall. But I think it was also like a combination of aero issues, and I think he was just tired of being 3 wide. So
I mean, I agree with 80% of what you said. I don't think that any of those guys are going to be mad about being 3 wide. I mean,
no.
they're all racers at heart, right? They're
Yeah.
all really fierce racers, and they all love the competition and hard racing. I personally, and again, we all have sim raced at Vegas, and we've all ran the wall. We've all done it. I I I don't. I feel like Joey took too much. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's just the way. When I was watching it, and I was seeing it, and even listening to the Clint and everything else on the broadcast when they were showing it, like I feel like Joey tried to pinch those guys down to choke them out, being selfish that he is, and it's full known and it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying it's not, but knowing how Joey is, I think he was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep cutting this corner until I choke them off, and Brad stood his ground. But then also you have the aerotight situation in it, and I mean it's
Yeah.
a recipe for disaster when you have those three racing side by side.
Oh, for sure.
I mean it really is.
Like you're not gonna have those three racing side by side for 2 laps like they did, and it just gets sorted out and everybody's okay. Like
Right? Yeah.
someone's
No.
gonna just say, "Screw this! I'm holding my position."
Right.
And
And I feel like that's what Brad and Joey both did.
yeah,
But you know, if I gotta say anything, I don't think that Brad did anything wrong,
hmm
and I think Joey took a lot out of it.
yeah,
I mean, that's just how I see it.
yeah.
Joey took too much.
All right. Well, so the rest of stage 3 after that went caution free until
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 uh-huh.
the
Say it.
final 5 laps of the race. Actually,
Right.
less than that. It was like 3 laps left.
No,
Um,
I think it was 5.
no, I
I
think it
think
was like
5 to go.
was
It
it
was
5?
5.
It was 5.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
5.
So
It
until
was,
Oh
it was
yeah, it was
5.
5
all
to
right.
go.
So at this point in the race, Kyle Larson had separated himself from William Byron over the course of green flag pit stops.
Quite a
Larson
lot.
Larson had a almost 4 second lead on William
Uh-huh.
Byron,
Yeah.
and the 24 was coming. Like I was watching the
Yeah.
relative, and the 24 was chopping it down. I think he had chopped it down to about 2 seconds with 5 to go, and I'm watching. I'm like, oh man, this is
A
gonna
little
be a
bit more
good
time.
race. Like he might
Uh-huh.
catch him. We might have like
Yeah.
a battle between teammates. But then the
He
10
wasn't
car,
catching him.
the
He
10
wasn't
car.
catching him.
Okay, okay,
No, I'm not saying he wasn't catching him. I'm just
yeah,
saying he wasn't catching him by the end of the
yeah.
race.
I think
And
it
if
would have
he
been
did, he
close.
couldn't have done anything.
I think it would have been close.
He couldn't have done nothing.
Yeah. Anyway,
That was Kyle Larson's race.
yeah. Anyway, Eric Almirola
Still fired up.
hits the wall, almost spins out, saves it. A little bit of contact with the wall. Whoever was pushing the button in the NASCAR tower just smacked that button as fast as he could. And that set us up with a late race shootout with some pit stops. The 19 of Martin Truex Jr. stays out. The 24 beats the 5 off of pit road. And we have a green-white checker overtime finish where William Byron comes out on top. And there was a massive crash on the last lap. The 16 went around and took out a bunch of cars. My guy included, Brad Keselowski, got swept up into that. And NASCAR did not throw a yellow for this accident, which I was surprised. It wouldn't have changed the outcome of the race at that point, but I was kind of happy to see that they let them race it out.
That was nice.
Yeah, that was actually very, very nice. So we're gonna do something a little different here. So Trevor and I, we got together at right after this race, and we had a discussion about this finish. So I'm gonna play that for you live here on the JT Pit Stop. You guys will be able to see it. You guys will be able to hear it, and then we will discuss the ending, the final caution, and all that. So give me just a second. Pull that up. Here we go. All right. Let's go. All right. Hello. Brief interlude. Trevor, we just finished watching the end of the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I can tell you're a little bit fired up, so I'd like to hear your thoughts. We had a late race caution while Kyle Larson was leading with a significant lead margin that was starting to shrink up a little bit.
Oh, that was such a big margin.
Yeah.
Like almost 4 seconds.
No, it wasn't. It was down to less than 2 seconds when the caution came out.
Was it?
It was shrinking. Yes, I was sitting there. I was watching the interval. I'm like, Byron is catching him. I don't think he'll have enough time to get there, but it was shrinking up.
No.
So yeah, Eric Almirola got up into the wall, got loose, and caution comes out. Martin Truex Jr. stays out.
Mm-hmm.
William Byron beats Larson off pit road, and calamity breaks out. So take it away, Trevor. Let's hear what your thoughts are.
Dude, so for one, NASCAR, why the caution? I mean, like, no debris flew off the car. He scrubbed the wall. You got 4 or 5 laps to go at the time. I think maybe even it was 6. Like, there was no immediate reason for him to for them to to throw the caution.
Yeah.
Okay, like bullshit caution. All right. If I'm gonna call bullshit, it's a bullshit. All right. That's all we can say about that. But there's a caution. Okay, now the drama happens because Larry McNugget said cautions happen twice
Yep.
within 5 laps. We're right there on that border. All right. Good job, Larry. Way to fuck the Larson fans. So Larson had, I feel like, the race won. Okay, if the lead was shrinking, it wasn't at a margin that I feel like Byron could have done anything. First off, congratulations to Byron for winning. Had a dominant car all day. But we come down pit road. Byron comes out in front of Larson, which I automatically said, "Oh shit!" right there,
Right.
because
Especially with
Larson,
the 19 staying out.
right. And to Truex's defense, there's nothing else you can do in his position but to stay out. I
Yeah.
mean, clean air, dude. Try to get a restart of what you can and hold them off.
Yeah.
Larson took 2 tires. I was happy. I said, yeah, dude, that's what you got to do. You had to take 2 tires there if you were going to win a race. Like,
Yep.
there was not enough laps. Had to take 2 tires. Then I watched Byron come off pit road before Larson. I was like, shit. So if I'm Larson, choose cone. Coming to the choose cone. I'm watching this I'm at the edge of my seat right now. What are you going to do, Larson? What are you going to do?
And then he lines up behind Truex.
What? 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 Like, why?
Yep.
What? If I was rich, I would have thrown my my remote through the TV at that point in time. Why are you gonna do that, Larson? You put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
Like
You're the first car that gets to pick which lane you want on the second row of the restart. Why would you line up behind the guy with 40 lap old tires?
Why would you do that? Like, you just set yourself up for failure at that point in time. If I would have been Larson, I was going to the outside.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I could have went to the outside of Byron.
And you know what happened? Larson lines up behind Truex, doesn't get going as good as Byron does, and here comes Alex Bowman right up the middle, 3 wide, slows them all down, and that's it. That's it. Byron wins the race.
Right there.
Exactly.
Right there. Like, there is nothing else that can happen from here.
Yeah.
Although Larson did get around Truex. I mean, you know, that was a given. That was going to happen. But why in the ever-living F jobs would you line up on the inside? Stick Denny on the inside. Stick somebody else on the inside. If you're on the outside, you can control the middle. You can control the 3rd lane. You can control the 4th lane on the restart by being on the outside of the restart. I don't understand what I mean,
I guess in a way it worked out though, because Denny wound up starting right behind Byron, and when Bowman shoved it in there, Denny finished outside the top 10.
But Denny didn't have the car that Kyle and Hendrick. I mean, if maybe we might want to pause this here, to be honest, but like, Hendrick had the cars all day long.
Yeah.
Nobody was touching Hendrick Motorsports, right? So like, but as far as the restart goes, for one, fuck you, NASCAR, for pulling out that caution. But for 2, why would you line up on the inside?
Yeah.
Like, with 40 lap old tires, put somebody else in that box.
Yeah.
Even if he is the teammate, like, come on, dude, you're not doing it.
It's definitely it was definitely an interesting way that shook out at the end, but hope you guys enjoyed that little live reactions. We'll get back to the show now.
Yep. Dude,
all right.
watching myself in the past. Like that was so comedical.
Yeah.
Go me.
Go you.
F
Go you.
NASCAR for throwing that caution. I'm still fired up as I watch it, dude. Why did you do that, Kyle? I don't understand.
All right. So, Adam, you
Man.
heard my thoughts. You heard Trevor's thoughts. What did you think of the caution, the strategies, and the big shakeup in the closing laps of that race?
All right. That was the first time watching that, so it was
Yeah.
very entertaining for sure.
Yeah.
Love. In addition to wife tips, we should have a fired up segment with Trevor.
Yeah.
You don't want that. You're gonna have to put a parental advisory on that one, dude. That's not. No,
Okay.
that's not. Yeah. Anyway, we can have wife tips. We can have fired up. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Why not?
This is officially a dating
All
advice
around,
show.
dude. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the other Trevor's.
Yeah.
That my friend Trevor.
Right.
My other friend Trevor, I should say, because there's way too many Trevors I know.
You know a lot of Trevors.
I know. Anyway, you asked about. Okay, we'll start with the caution.
Yes.
I 100% agree with the caution.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you, Adam.
You're gonna get us demonetized, and I'm not even monetized.
Because it wasn't a hit like Josh Berry or Kyle Busch. It was not a hit.
Yeah.
Do you remember like what Almirola's car looked like?
Yeah.
It literally looked that sideways.
Yeah.
So who knows where that car's going to go? Is it going to go down the track?
Right.
Will it collect anyone?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Fox doesn't have the best coverage right now.
I know.
And the only thing that they really showed was Almirola just driving straight down the front stretch.
I know. They showed us, it's like, oh, car hit the wall. Okay, we're going to throw yellow for that when we have had cars hitting the wall all day long and no yellow. But 5 laps to go. But then, like, later they went back and showed the replay, and I was like, oh, he was jacked all kinds of sideways. So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so I support NASCAR throwing the yellow. It wasn't like the Stenhouse yellow in the All-Star race last year.
Oh yeah, that was dumb.
This one, the car was almost perpendicular to the track.
Yeah,
and there was smoke. So he's in the racing surface. He's not spun out on the apron or anything.
Yeah.
So if it affected any driver, if they like had to lift out of the gas or hit the brakes, you know darn well that they're going to complain that they lost ground to the person that they're racing, and NASCAR should have thrown a caution. Because I know when I race on iRacing, if I have to slow down for something, I want a caution because I lost that ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
there's nothing more frustrating when it's like, oh, we're the wreck, and you slow up, and everybody ahead of the wreck just drives away, and you're like, oh, now I'm 2 seconds behind them. That's fun.
Yeah. So, caution, agree with. Next thing was strategy. I 100% love the strategy by Truex and his team.
I agree with you, dude. Like, what are you gonna? I said it in there. What are you gonna do if you're Truex? Go. For it.
I just wish more stayed out with him.
Yeah, it would have worked if maybe 4 or 5 drivers stayed out.
Yeah.
But we got to the point where probably handling was too much of an issue, and the people in the back that should have stayed out couldn't stay out because they know that their car was handling awful, so they know that they would have caused a wreck or something. Like there's no way they could hold on for a lap, in their opinion. So that's why they didn't stay out. But one of my friends from here, where I'm from, he messaged me. He's a Truex fan, and he said that it's a good thing Truex didn't come down pit road because the left rear lug nut was stuck or sealed onto that tire.
Oh,
so even if they tried to do 2 tires, it would have been an issue. So I don't know. it's like I think they tried taking the tire off after the race, and they're like, "Oh, this actually worked out really
Yeah.
well for us.
Yeah,
We
because
were
they
in
wouldn't have been
last."
able to get the tire off. And we saw that once last year. I think it was it Darlington? I think it was Darlington or one of those races. The 43 car of Eric Jones. It might have been Michigan, actually. But they had like all these like angle grinders and things like that. They're trying to get the lug nut off the car because it was just stuck. Like, ooh, man.
Yeah. So I love the strategy, and I love the strategy by the two tires.
Yes.
And then I think I was listening to Justin Haley's interview. He said, "Oh, I was gonna if I took two tires, I would have just started behind everyone who took two tires in basically in the same spot." So he took four, and I believe he got his first top 10 of the season by taking four. So
Yeah.
I feel like in terms of tire strategies, like everyone that needed to do something did what they needed to do,
Yeah.
even if they didn't know that they had lug nut issues.
Right.
Um, now, where I start questioning strategies is the restart lane choice.
Yes.
Um, I know I do not ever want to restart third place or second on the inside road because either you are committed to pushing the guy in front of you to keep up the momentum of your
Yep.
line going to one, and then if you do get around the 19 in that case, then you just get stalled out on the bottom because of how aero dependent these cars are and the drag. Um, so, in my opinion, Larson probably should have restarted second on the outside.
Yep.
He can push Byron into turn one, maintain that ground, and then go high, middle, wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
You have options to try and win the
Yeah.
race.
And that's what Trevor and I kind of talked about. I'm like, we're just looking at like, why would you line up third on the inside behind the guy with old tires? Like, I really think if he'd have started outside row two and pushed Byron and the two of them just pushed each other through the corner right around Martin Truex, they could have raced it out between the two of them. But you know, when Larson has to start behind Truex like that, you know, he's not going to push Truex ahead of his teammate. So what's he going to do? He's going to get stalled out, and there goes Alex Bowman up the middle, three wide, doing Alex Bowman things. And
Yep,
you know,
finding
that's
himself in the front at the end of the race, and
yep.
you're like, how
And
did he get up there?
yep. And he actually wound up finishing ahead of Kyle Larson with that move. Bowman came home second, and Larson was delegated to a third place finish. So, but overall, what did you guys think of the Pennzoil 400?
I
Um,
thought it was good. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Vegas is one of those tracks that puts on good races,
Right.
right? I said it once, I'll say it again. I think it was a bullshit call by NASCAR to throw that caution. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
how sideways that car was; it didn't wrap anybody up. We've seen cars get that sideways before, and there not be a caution.
Yeah.
Okay, like it's. I get it. What if? Yeah, what if? If I would have seen two or three other cars get wrapped up in the Eric Almirola thing, then yeah, I get it. Throw the caution. You know, you got debris, you got whatever, you got cars wrapped up in it. Okay, fine. It was a one car spin at that for two, 5 laps to go in the race. If the other guys caught checked up, yeah, I get it. Do we all hate losing ground to the guy in front of you? But I don't feel like that was worthy of a caution at that point in time. Okay, like I the car drove straight afterwards. He didn't, he might have came down during pit stops and they might have put on 4 tires because he spun or whatever, but I don't feel like that was worthy of a caution, and that is my only thing that I'm mad about. Other than that, I thought it was great racing. I think this package and these teams are finally getting this car to where we're getting good races on these intermediate tracks that we weren't having before. It was nice to see a non-caution filled track. It made you see who the good cars were versus who the not so good cars were, who could work on the car and get it better. I feel as though Kyle had something for Bowman if he didn't mess up and go to the inside behind someone with crap old tires and get stalled out. Bowman did a great job on the restart, went up through the middle like he needed to. I think that's what screwed Denny over and made him go to the back because he went up where he didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And being in that position, going down into turn one, riding up on the wall like that, you just lose too much ground because you're not going to build up enough momentum out there on the outside to be able to do anything with it. At that point, you're getting railroaded. Other than that, I thought that the Pennzoil 400 was a really good race.
Yep. Adam, what did you think of the Pennzoil 400?
All right, I'm gonna go the controversial route.
No,
Okay.
you're
I'm gonna say I should say the more realistic route, not the Trevor route.
that's fine.
I'm kidding.
No,
Um,
that's
I'm
fine.
gonna
That's what
take
we're here.
off. I'm gonna take off the Hendrick Motorsports glasses that I
Yep.
have. And I'm gonna take off the fact that the Pennzoil car finished last in the Pennzoil 400. I'm gonna take those
One
two
of them.
things off
One of them
and
did.
say the race was actually pretty bad for intermediate race
Mhm.
because if you look at the race, there was like no passing in the top five. There was like no racing either. There
Yeah.
were really no comers or goers. What Trevor said, teams have figured out the car, and I have a feeling that figuring out the car doesn't make for good racing, and it spread the field out to cause like no passing. Like
Yeah.
if if there were no cautions and green flag pit stops, everyone pit at the same time, William Byron would have led every single lap.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like I don't know if this is a cause for concern or the fact I don't know. I because it was cold and stuff. I don't know if Las Vegas was more of a narrow
Yeah.
track where it was more single, and we all know that the next gen suffers on single lane tracks.
Yeah.
But I just feel like this wasn't one of the best races that I would expect for a next gen car.
Yeah. I mean, I want to take us back to 2020 at Kansas in the playoff race. I'm sure you remember that one. That was, obviously with the Gen 6 car, high downforce pack or high downforce low horsepower package, the really bad one that they ran for all these years. Um, that track had similar conditions where it was cold and you couldn't pass. And we saw a lot of that in this Las Vegas race. Obviously, different car, different situations, but the same type of racing where you just can't pass anybody because it's a single lane cold track. Is that a good comparison? I feel like it's a good comparison in a
Pretty
way.
decent.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
track conditions play a huge part.
Yeah. So I think if this race, if it was hot and slick, I think we would have seen a significantly better race. We saw the Las Vegas race, both of them last year were really good races. But it was also hot and slick for both of those races. Those were really good, fun races. This one, and a lot of it is because of the teams are more dialed in now, but also the track conditions led it to just being a single file bottom lane racetrack. And if you couldn't get the bottom to work, you were going backwards. And I honestly, I think it was the worst race of the weekend. It was not a thrilling race. It had a dramatic finish, but a dramatic finish does not tell you the full story of the race, which, other than that, was mostly uneventful.
I guess. I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good race. I
Yeah,
mean, I'll watch a race to watch the race. You
yeah,
know, I feel like the guys that qualified up front didn't really finish up front. I feel like, the people that went out there put their best foot forward, and yeah, you guys said it. If this went green flag and everybody didn't pit at the same time, then William Byron would have dominated this race and led every single lap. But it's not like William Byron came out 6th or 7th place, where he
Yeah.
had to fight through a lot of traffic. He came out right behind Kyle Larson and couldn't get around Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
To me, that makes that all right. To watch the pit crew come into effect, okay, in a race, that to me makes it a good race. And I get where everybody else is coming from, all right. And a lot of fans think the same way. You're not seeing a lot of passing. You're not seeing comers and goers. You're not watching them run side by side or anything else like that. I get it. Yeah, it's entertaining. But when I watch a race, I want to see the whole team come into effect. And I feel like you got that here. You had Kyle Larson beat William Byron off of pit road, got the lead. William Byron, yeah, did he have a dominant car? But if he had such a dominant car, how come he couldn't get back around Kyle Larson? I mean, they
because you
weren't
can't
just running
pass.
the whole bottom though. They weren't. They were running the wall. There was cars running the wall. There was cars running the bottom, making the same amount of speed. They just weren't. They weren't able to get by them because their cars were so equal. So then the team came into effect. You had the pit crews come into effect. I feel like that's what makes a race, is when it's not just one driver goes out there, dominates the race and runs away with it. All right, yeah, that's cool. But if he was so dominant and everything else, I feel like he should have got past Kyle Larson.
See, when you say something like that, if the car's so dominant, he should get past someone. I totally agree, but unfortunately, in my opinion, that this package is interesting at cold, grippy tracks right now, or single groove tracks that you can't race your way back to the front.
Yeah.
You're like third or fourth, and that's concerning for me.
I guess, yeah. I mean, but then again, this is a team sport, right? So if your team lets you down and you don't come out ahead, I mean, I thought it was interesting enough that like you saw a couple of people come down pit road 2, 3 laps ahead of time when they had such fall off. Then when they're coming back out off pit road, they didn't really gain that ground. Like, how come that didn't come into effect on a couple of them? I was watching people come down pit road 2, 3 laps ahead of someone else and was like, oh, they're going to gain all this ground. They really didn't gain all that ground that you would expect them
Mhm.
to gain coming out on fresh tires. I mean, I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought that makes a race, is that you had people coming in at different times under green flag pit stops, and it wasn't shaking up the standings that much. I mean, and
See
it
what see with that, I think if someone has a tire advantage, you expect them to go through the field, but the problem is if aero is that much more powerful, you
Yeah.
can't pass people, and then you're stuck
Yeah.
in
I mean,
wherever you come out.
I'll say
And
this.
real
Oh, go
quickly,
ahead. Yeah.
I think tire fall off was about a second to 2 seconds maybe after a long run.
It
It
was not
wasn't that
much.
much.
Yeah, because I saw on one of the pit stops, Brad Keselowski stayed out like 10, 12 laps later than the rest of the field. And he came back on track and was like 16th and just couldn't pass anybody. I was like, I thought with like 15 lap fresher tires, like, oh, he's going to make some moves. He's going to start passing cars. And he just kind of got stuck. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So tires didn't really mean a whole lot in this race tonight. And you couldn't really pass because of the aero issues. So, like I said, I don't think it was necessarily like a horrible race
It was
because
not Texas.
yes, I was just about to say we're gonna get the horrible race later this year in Texas. That's gonna be nap time 500. Um, but other than that, like I thought it was a decent race. It could have been better. I expected more from Las Vegas than what we got in the Pennzoil 400, but by no means was it like, oh, this is like the worst thing ever.
no, and that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not saying this is the greatest race we're gonna see all
yeah,
year. I'm not saying this is the greatest Las Vegas race ever.
No.
But as far as a race goes, to me, I think it was a good race.
Okay.
It had
Well,
everything that you could need in it, even
Let's go to
controversy.
Jeff Gluck's poll, which I do not know the results of.
all right. Well, moving on from the Pennzoil 400, let's talk about a race that was absolutely fantastic this weekend. We're going to talk about the Alsco Uniforms 300. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that, but ALSCO Alsco. That's what I'm going to call it. The Alsco
Yeah.
4 Uniforms 300 with the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Now, this race was fantastic. You had tire fall off. You had guys coming to the front, guys falling to the back. You had different tire strategies. There was passing all over the place. This race was an absolute blast to watch, and I really like it. Bothers me the most when the Xfinity and the Truck Series put on better racing than the Cup Series, because there's nothing more deflating about a race weekend when you get to your marquee event and it is just, that was a race, you know? So let's talk about the Alsco Uniforms 300. So right off the bat, we had a pretty early caution in stage number 1 when Parker Kligerman got some contact from John Hunter Nemechek and got a little loose. Sorry, audio issues there for a minute. But that was the only caution during stage 1 of the race, and John Hunter Nemechek wound up going on to win stage number 1 in the Alsco Uniforms 300. So, what did you guys think of stage number 1 of the Xfinity race this weekend?
Didn't get to catch it.
Okay.
I was looking at possible house we're buying, so I didn't get to catch the Xfinity.
All right.
race.
Well, Adam and I will discuss the Xfinity Series race then, and you can just chime in with what you do.
You can disagree with what I say at some point.
Yeah, you can sit there and disagree with Adam, and
I
Adam.
can't disagree with anything.
All right.
It probably was a great race. Xfinity and trucks put on great races all the time. It's how it is lately.
Yeah.
That's what we get.
All right. So Adam, what did you think of stage 1 of the Alsco Uniforms 300?
Ultimately, what you said, what the race had everything that I think is good for good racing.
Yeah.
With comers and goers. Wasn't really thrilled to see Nemechek win because I'm not really a fan of his, but and of course Kligerman finds himself in another wreck. As you said. I'm like, come on, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna switch back to Allgaier as my favorite driver, maybe.
Yeah.
But I will still cheer on Parker because I like him.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember much about stage 1 other than those things. But yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. All right, we'll move on. So during the stage 1 pit stops, things started to get a little bit interesting. Alex Lebey's team lost a tire on pit roll that just rolled across the track. Cars kind of scattered everywhere trying to avoid that. And then they're lined up 1 to green. They're double file. They're going through turn number 3, and they extend the caution by a lap, and everyone's like, "What's going on? Delayed green. What's up?" Joey Gase, his engine died on him and just stalled on the track in turn number 1 right off of pit road, and couldn't get it refired. They had to tow him off the track. So a little bit took us a little bit to get going for stage number 2. Stage number 2 went pretty much caution free. You had a lot of cars that were passing each other. There's a tire fall off. Guys were falling back. And we made it all the way to like the last lap of the stage when we got our only caution of stage number 2, when Raja Caruth spun out as the stage was ending, and Austin Hill went on to win stage number 2. What do you think of stage number 2? I thought it was probably the most fun of the 2 stages.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. One thing that I did see was a certain colored car was gonna be pretty strong.
Yes.
That day.
Yeah, Chandler Smith led a bunch of laps during this race.
Yes, and then I was not. I'll say what I'm going to say after you recap stage 3.
Yes.
But I was actually really happy to see Chandler leading the race and
Yeah.
quite a bit of it and having very good success.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the final stage. The final stage went caution free. There were no cautions in the final stage. However, during the set of green flag pit stops during the stage, Sammy Smith spun out getting onto pit road, making his pit stop. That was kind of like the notable incident. Meanwhile, all this time, Chandler Smith is out there leading a bunch of laps. He's doing a really good job. He's taking it to everybody. However, he started to fall off at the end of that race. And the final laps of that race were absolutely incredible because you had the fall off of Chandler Smith. Austin Hill and Justin Allgaier were closing in like bandits. They were just coming. And they caught Chandler Smith with like 2 to go. And like on the white flag lap, Chandler Smith takes the white flag, and through turn 1 and 2, they just go right around him, and he winds up finishing. He goes from first to third on the final lap, and it was just an incredible battle because Austin and Justin, they were racing each other really hard. They're like trying to figure out who's going to win the race because they knew it was going to be between one of them, and were they going to catch Chandler in time? Chandler was just kind of struggling there at the end of the run, and it was just some fantastic, like, that is like your classic NASCAR finish there with tire fall off, different lines, different strategies. So much fun. Adam, what did you think? Final stage of that Xfinity race.
I was so much hoping for a Chandler Smith win because I remember I said in the preview show that Chandler would be the only calling car to make the playoffs.
Yep.
And I was going to say, he would. He is in the playoffs, and Hemrick has wrecked basically every race, so he may not make the playoffs. Like, I was thinking about the show.
You're thinking about the show the whole time.
Yeah, I'm like, I can say this.
Yeah.
And then, like, he was struggling trying to find his way through lap traffic, and then he just he burned up his stuff. And
Yeah.
I know it was really windy that day. Like, the gusts were off and on, which made turn 3 very unpredictable.
Yeah.
I know Eddie DeHaan, which Chase Elliott's spotter, also spots for Allgaier, he will say gust, and then Justin will adjust his entry into 3 based off from if there's wind or not.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's wind or it burned up his tires. I think he burned up his tires and didn't get the lead he could have gotten. But coming to the white flag, Austin Hill said that he could see that Chandler missed the bottom line by maybe 6 inches and could not get the car turned.
Yeah.
And when you leave a headlight of air to get on that nose on the second car, Hill just got on that white line and rode it, and it was lights out.
Yeah.
Chandler lost all momentum, had to lift off him. Allgaier got by as well.
Yeah, it was
I feel for the
4. I did get to see the last couple laps.
Yeah.
And it was coming out 3 and 4 where Austin Hill came and got the lead, and it was like,
yep.
I feel for the kid. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
But if he's like this, he'll have so many chances.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like, as a younger driver, new to the series, when you're out front leading, like, I feel like it's very easy to forget about the basics when you're just out front like that. Like, you're not thinking about, like, do I need to save this? Because you don't have anybody to pace yourself on at that point when you have such a massive lead, which can lead to overcooking the tires and just burning your stuff up. And I think he's going to learn from that. And the next time we roll out to 1.5 miles, I am absolutely expecting Chandler Smith to go out there and win the next race.
Got to lose one before you can win.
Absolutely.
It's a learning opportunity.
Yeah, so let's move on to the final race of the weekend.
I gotta say something though.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Xfinity, real quick.
Yeah.
Kyle Busch goes out in practice, only puts out 4 laps. His tires going low in practice, and then still comes back to finish 4th place.
Yeah.
In an Xfinity car, with the setup that he pretty much said, if I would have looked up the sheet in practice, he's like, I would have said we are not going with that because it's going to be junk.
Yeah.
That is kind of amazing, if you ask me. 4 laps
Yeah.
of practice and still comes back 4th place. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch the whole race to see what he did, but I mean, that just goes to show the caliber, dude. That,
Oh, for sure.
Also in a Colleague car.
Yeah, in a
yeah,
Colleague
in a
car.
Colleague car, yeah.
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 All right, so let's move on. We're going to talk about the Truck Series race, the Victoria's Voice Foundation 200. This is a night race at Las Vegas. And I thought this race was, it didn't have the racing that we had from the Xfinity race. But my God, did this race have entertainment factor all over it. This race was great. I enjoyed every moment of watching this race. I mean, we had trucks that were 3 and 4 wide the whole time, and it was chaos and action packed. I loved this race. So stage 1 had a couple of yellows. There was a couple of yellows throughout this race. This is a very action packed yellow race. The first yellow we had of the race was actually not a yellow, but Daniel Dye, flat left rear tire, kind of spun out, was able to get down to pit road before NASCAR called the caution, and that kind of set the tone for the race. We didn't get a yellow there, but it wasn't. But a couple laps later, Brett Holmes had a flat right front tire, just sails off into the wall, and this was lap 18 of the race. Stage 1 was 30 laps. So that set up some interesting tire strategies to finish stage number 1. You saw Kyle Busch was running up front. He comes in, grabs his tires, just kind of rides at the back of the field, saving his tires, setting himself up to win the race. He didn't care about the stage points.
30-second pit stop.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So you missed the pre-race drama in that recap.
Oh, did I?
Oh, man.
Did you miss the pre-race drama? Do you know what happened?
I didn't watch any pre-race for the Truck Series. I just watched the race.
So the big story was a flight was delayed twice for like 5 to 8 pit crews.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
And
Okay.
They did not have pit crews there.
No.
Like Kyle Busch
Okay.
didn't have a pit crew. Zane Smith did not have a pit crew because their flights were delayed like multiple times.
Yeah, I remember seeing them be like, "Oh, these are the pit crew running across the track." I'm like, what is going on with that?
Yeah,
they
dude,
literally got a police escort from the airport. They were flying down the road.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so they showed up late, and then it was the on-the-road crew for Kyle Busch Motorsports that was out there changing the tires.
Okay.
So not only was it like a 25-second pit stop, okay?
Yeah.
Like literally, it was a super long pit stop for Kyle Busch when he's out there dominating the race. And I thought they were stupid for even doing this and think this could work, okay? So it looked like you had like a late model pit crew out there in the Truck Series when they were doing this, dude. It was ridiculous, okay? Then Kyle Busch gets out there on the track and goes, "I have a loose wheel." Screw the air guns, just bring out the torque wrench and get these tires torqued down so I can drive this thing, because there's no way I can drive this thing. And then you literally watch one guy go out there with a torque gun and start torquing down the tires as the other guy is sitting there going, like with the air gun just sitting there like hammering the lug nuts. I didn't even think the rear lug nuts were ever going to come off with this guy just sitting there hammering, ugga-dugging these lug nuts to tomorrow. I mean, like, and Kyle was pissed over the radio. Like, you just heard him so pissed off. And it's like, if you knew your pit crew wasn't going to be there, why are you even going to come down? Be like everybody else who was smart and stay out and wait for your pit crew to get dressed, dude.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they knew when the pit crews were going to arrive. And it kind of makes sense with the strategy that Kyle Busch was doing, because if he pit under caution before the stage end, everyone's going to come in during the stage end. So you put on the tires, have a huge, long pit stop, come in 50,000 times, tighten lug nuts. You restart in the back, but then on the cycle, you stay out during the stage
And
break. So
that's
you cycle
exactly what he did.
wrong.
You know, he
Right.
they restarted and he was just chilling back there. He was not trying to pass anybody. He was just riding it out to the stage, which good for him because that finish of the stage got really chaotic when they were racing 3 wide for the stage win, and Christian Eckes stuck in the middle, drifts up the track a little bit, sideways, saves it, big save, keeps going, and Zane Smith went on to win stage number 1. Man, that was a fun stage.
Save of the year.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
I agree with Adam. That was the save of the year.
Yes.
Dude.
Up to
And I
this
forget
point.
I forget who was to his outside, but
think it was-
Eckes clipped
It was Majeski,
that
I think.
track.
Oh, Majeski.
Yeah.
Eckes flipped that truck, and I don't know who it was, but they had the save of the year because they didn't go sideways either. Like,
Yeah.
quick reaction of the hands. That was
Yeah.
truck racing.
I tell you, my
so
favorite part
badass.
about that replay, I was watching it, and you can see the left front tire from the angle that they showed, and you just see the
Yeah.
tire just like turning, and it just kind of straightens out and then drives away. And I was like, oh, that's some driving right there.
Yeah, man.
But yes, stage 1 was really fun. Obviously, we had the pit crew drama that was really chaotic. So thank you for filling me in on that. I missed that part. I was just kind of watching the race itself. So what'd you guys think of stage 1? We had action, we had drama, we had saves. What'd you guys think? Stage 1 of the truck race.
I thought it was great, but this is kind of where I didn't get to watch the truck race anymore because I had things come up.
Okay.
So.
I think
Unfortunately, guys, I'm sorry.
You're fine. No, but I think we went over everything that was stage 1
Yeah.
already. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I have anything else to say then.
Okay.
Wow, that was entertaining.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to stage 2. This was the Wreckfest portion of the race. We had trucks just spinning out like crazy on this one. We had Matt Mills spun out. Lawless Allen in the middle of 3 wide. He spins out. Just contact around him. Another car, the O2, spun around. I believe it was Chris Wright, whatever his name is. I just wrote down Wright as his last name on my notes.
Right.
Chris.
I mean, you're right anyway.
Yeah, I'm right. Okay. He spun around, and then on the final lap of the stage, we had the big one. They were racing 4 wide, and Haley Deegan's bouncing off of trucks left and right, loses control and catches John Hunter Nemechek, kind of turns both of them across the field. And then Carson Hocevar went on to win stage 2 when the caution came out there. So, Adam, what did you think of stage number 2 of that truck race with all the spins and the action and all that?
Well, it didn't end the way I wanted anything to end, really. Hocevar winning. If he changes his mentality, I'll like him, but he is a little too.
If he could just stop wrecking people for cautions, that would be great.
Yeah. And then, of course, my favorite driver. Little cause for concern about driving ability because, yes, they're super aggressive in the truck series, but other people are. I guess people have more experience being put 3 and 4 wide and knows how the truck is going to be handled. Obviously, Haley didn't.
Yes, because she kind of got 4 wide and just started ping ponging off of everybody.
Yeah, you could tell that the air was moving her around and she couldn't handle it because she doesn't get put in that spot that often.
Yeah.
So she needs more experience in that. It was unfortunate because she wrecked at Daytona. Now she wrecked at Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's not looking to be a good start of the season for her. And it looks like she needed to be more aggressive on the restarts because she was falling back. So
yeah.
I think there's going to be a little bit of growing pains being with Doorsport. but she has the truck to get things done. So
Yeah,
I want to see her do well, but she she needs to start having results.
of course. So moving on to the final stage of the race, this was where the race seemed to take a complete 180 from everything we saw from stage one and stage two, because the final stage of the race had no cautions. It just went flag to flag. We actually had green flag pit stops, which is kind of crazy to see in the truck series these days. You don't really see the green flag pit stops too much, because with the aggression levels needed for the truck series on top of the stages, and just the way they are just kind of all on top of each other, you always wind up with cautions at some point. That was not the case. Ross Chastain had to make an early pit stop for temperature issues, and then got a speeding penalty doing so. Good job, Florida man. And then outside of that, Kyle Busch. I mean, Kyle Busch did what Kyle Busch does, and he went out and dominated that race. I know there was a lot of people like, well, they're switching to Chevy. They don't have the Toyota horsepower. Is Kyle Busch Motorsports going to go out there and do what Kyle Busch Motorsports does? And that question has already been answered. Kyle Busch Motorsports is absolutely going to go out there and just keep doing what Kyle Busch Motorsports does, which is win races. And he did that this weekend. So, what'd you guys think overall of the truck race this weekend?
I thought it was a really good race. I did think Xfinity was best, followed by
Yes.
trucks, followed by Cup.
Yeah.
I will say I probably could have kept this a secret, but after Haley wrecked, I ended up falling asleep on the couch, so I didn't see
Yeah.
the
I mean,
race.
to be fair, you didn't miss much because she wrecked out at the end of stage two. Like I said, the final stage went caution free. Everybody seemed to decide now is the time where we're just gonna chill out, and they just got single file, and then that was it. Like Kyle Busch just drove away to like a 7-second lead or something like that at the end of the race. It was ridiculous.
I do have a question. How
Yeah,
was the crowd reaction when he won at his home track?
I did not see that.
You did not see it?
I actually watched like a race replay of it earlier today. I waited until today to watch the truck race, and once I saw Kyle Busch won, I'm like, cool. Like
Okay.
I got all my notes. We're good. So
I
I
find
didn't.
it very interesting that he's not driving a Toyota now.
Yeah.
He's getting a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
love
yeah.
from
We saw
fans.
that at Auto Club, and it's
Yeah,
crazy to see that like Kyle Busch has gone from like enemy number one to like the people's champion overnight, and it's all because he
Yeah,
switched away from Toyota.
I wouldn't
hmm
go that far. I think it's
No.
more along the lines of like a lot of fans out there are RCR fans, and if
Yeah.
RCR approves of Kyle, and like a lot of the big issues was, for one, you had the Dale Jr. stuff, right?
Yeah.
That happened at Richmond. Two, you had the Kyle Larson versus Ron Hornaday
Yeah.
issues that from back in the day of the trucks and everything else. So like, yeah, he was hated because he picked on like two of the biggest icons, RCR and Earnhardt. I mean, but I think with everything that Kyle went through, and even with myself, okay, like with this whole what's gonna happen to Kyle Busch? Are we gonna lose Kyle Busch? Nobody thought we were gonna really lose Kyle Busch as being in NASCAR, but it was like,
Yeah.
what is gonna happen with him, and how is this all gonna play out? And I think we see the human side of Kyle Busch, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
because he wasn't the arrogant asshole that he was through the whole thing
Yeah.
before. Like you actually seen like this whole wow, Kyle Busch is a freaking human through the whole contract thing. So I
Yeah.
think this year, like when we're actually watching Kyle Larson go out there and
You mean
put
Kyle
it
Busch?
to the Toyotas, yep, Kyle, my bad, yeah. When we're watching, but it was the same thing with Kyle Larson too,
Yeah.
right? Like I mean, when Kyle Larson came back after the whole COVID crap that happened, right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, when we watched him come back and do good, now that we're seeing Kyle Busch do this, and we saw how he is a human and how he's coming out and he's persevering and he's doing good, and racing for RCR, and I think one thing that opened up the eyes to me was when he worked with his teammate, Austin Dillon at the Clash.
Yeah.
I mean, when we saw him move over to let Austin Dillon go by to try to win that race, that opened up a really, like,
Yeah.
uh, you know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. Okay,
Kyle
like,
Busch never did anything like that at JGR. Nope.
never, ever. And now that you're seeing that, it's like, oh, okay, maybe we're seeing a new Kyle Busch. Maybe
Yeah.
he's not the arrogant asshole that he was before. Maybe we're starting and you're not really getting like, I mean, yeah, you're still getting a Kyle Busch attitude at certain times, but you're not getting that Kyle Busch I'm better than you attitude that we're all used to seeing and we all
Right.
hated. So yeah, I think as far as the racing goes, from what I seen, I think that the Xfinity finish was dramatic and awesome to see. Didn't get to catch it. I don't have any way to watch because Fox Sports sucks and they don't let you watch the replays. Um, the Cup race was okay. We went over that. I think it's cool to see Kyle Busch come out win a truck race. Um, I got to watch the Eckes part. I thought that was pretty badass. Truck racing always puts on. Wish I would
Hmm.
have watched the highlights to see the wreck. Could have been a little more helpful, but as far as the weekend goes, I think Vegas is a really good track to put on good races.
For sure.
I thought so too. A couple things I just remembered about the Cup race
Yeah.
that were
Go
kind of
ahead.
noteworthy. Uh, Eric Jones had a loose tire and he backed up onto pit road.
Oh
Do you
yeah.
remember that?
I
Yep.
do remember that.
Um,
Yeah.
so Elton Sawyer, the competition director, was on SiriusXM NASCAR radio. They asked him about that because that's a safety issue backing up on pit road, right?
Yeah.
Well, he apparently said that's okay to do.
Oh boy.
They would rather see
Oh
them back
boy.
up and get the tire on instead of having it fall off on the track. So I didn't hear the full interview. I just heard the little soundbite that they played on the recap. I'm like, okay, I wonder if it was a hot live pit road, cars everywhere, if that would be okay. I I, I
Yeah,
think it
I
would
don't.
be a case by case basis, but
Yeah.
I found it interesting about that. Um,
I am interested to see how this goes because someone's gonna try it when they take off pit road. But, oh, my tire's loose. Hold on. All right, I'm backing up. There we go.
backing up,
Yep.
backing up like that SpongeBob episode.
Yeah. That's gonna be interesting. Um.
Yeah, that is that is going to be very interesting when one of the top three leaders on a yellow flag pit stop goes to take off and they're like, "Oh, we didn't get the wheel shut." Okay, stop. I'm gonna back up because it's okay. Competition
Yeah.
director said I could. Watch out.
Yeah.
Like I have my backup camera, so we're all good now.
Yeah.
The
All right.
second thing that I was found
Oh
noteworthy.
my
Remember the
god.
rule changes of the orange lines and pit boxes for
Oh
inter.
yeah. Yeah. The one that didn't make any sense that nobody knew what was going on.
So we had our first driver become a victim of that penalty.
Who was it?
It was Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick. How does this penalty work again?
Basically, he doesn't know. I don't know. He
Okay.
tried to explain it on Sirius XM NASCAR radio because he's a
Okay.
guest each week. He said, "Well, I think I went over the orange line of the box behind me, but it's already super narrow, so I'm interested to see how it's going to be at Bristol and Martinsville because I feel like the entire field's going to be penalized.
Yeah.
So
Well, that
that's
why
that's
why I know we talked about this in the preseason show.
I thought it was like 2.
Why do you
Wow.
have a rule in place that nobody knows what it means? Nobody knows why it's a penalty. It's just that's the rule. You should know the rule. That's the rule we made up that you have to follow now, and it's just like, but I don't know how to follow the rule. So, uh, Yeah, that's interesting. One other bit of fun news I want to bring up that I saw on Twitter today. Martinsville Speedway has officially
Oh,
removed a section of
yeah.
the wall for preservation from the
From the
Hail
Hail
Melon
Melon.
move
Yes.
before preparing the track for this race. I just thought that was really cool. I saw them just
And
lift
Ross
the.
signed it.
Yeah, Ross signed it. He was out there and took photos and everything, and
Yeah.
they grabbed that whole section of wall that just says Martinsville on it, and they're gonna go put it on display somewhere, and as they prep the track for the coming race in a couple of weeks. So I just wanted to share that little bit of information. I thought that was really cool. Moving into the big story of the week, though, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. Chase Elliott out with a leg injury from a snowboarding accident. Hendrick Motorsports has announced that Chase Elliott will be out for 6 weeks. At which point, Josh Berry is going to continue to fill in the 9 car on the oval tracks, and Jordan Taylor will be behind the wheel of the 9 car at the road course event at Circuit of the Americas. So, guys, what do you think of those fun little bits of news? Not that they're all fun, but we had the one fun bit of news and then the serious bit of news that's less fun because somebody got injured, and I hope he recovers okay. But what do you guys think of the Martinsville Wall? And what do you guys think of Josh Berry and Jordan Taylor filling in the 9 car?
So the Martinsville news is great for historical value. They will always have that.
Yeah.
It will be like any like Intimidator, Grid Wrench 3 car or
Mm-hmm.
Petty Blue car. Um, can't ever take that away.
Right.
Um, but as far as filling, so Chase Elliott by far is my favorite driver.
Yeah.
I wish he was driving the 9 car. Josh Berry was an interesting pick, in my opinion. I have a feeling heavily influenced by Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Most likely, yeah.
But Ronnie Sandstorm is my favorite sports car driver. For anyone who does not know, Ronnie Sandstorm is Jordan Taylor's alter ego that always wears a Jeff Gordon
Yeah.
rainbow coat and does crazy things. Even got Darrell Waltrip confused that a crazy fan was trying to butt into the pre-race show one day. Um, I don't know if you guys remember that,
I think
but
I remember that, yeah.
Jordan Taylor is my favorite sports car driver, and I am so excited to see him in my favorite driver's car for Coda.
Yeah. Trevor, what do you think?
I think it's awesome.
All right.
I think obviously being a huge Chase Elliott fan, I wish him the best. I mean, number 9, I got 9 tattooed on me. Elliott fan to the end. Better not ever change your number because I'm gonna be pissed. But you know, uh, I hope I hope he gets better. And when he comes back, because he's gonna come back, he comes back just as strong and just as driven. Watched the Dale Jr. download thing and said that Jr. said that he is just gonna come back full swing, even better than he was before he left, because he's gonna appreciate what he's got more. It got taken from him. At one point, we didn't know when he was going to come back, if he could come back. And, I think this is just going to drive him. Josh Berry going in the carts. I think he's going to be a next level, one of the next Cup Car drivers that come in. So it's good for him to get the experience. I like that. Jordan Taylor, I am really, really interested to find out how this goes at Coda. Jordan Taylor is a fantastic sports car driver. He's driven the LMDH cars. Well, no, they weren't the LMDH cars. They were the Daytona prototypes at the
BPIs.
time. Won the Daytona 24. Um, he's I think he won it in the Corvette car,
Mm-hmm.
and he is just he's won Sebring, he's won like pretty much every major marquee event that there is in sports cars. I cannot wait to see what he says about this car at a road course. I think it's going to be awesome, and I think if they keep going on with these next gen car, Le Mans 24-hour race car things that they keep going on, I cannot wait to see him in the lineup. Maybe they'll put him in the lineup because they only have 3 drivers. Maybe after this, he'll talk him into letting them go into the Le Mans car, and it'll be fantastic for Garage 56. But I am really actually excited to watch Coda because I hate that track. I cannot stand it. But now that Jordan Taylor's going to be on there, I'm excited to watch that race.
All right. I am also excited to see what Jordan Taylor can do behind the wheel of the Cup car, and I'm excited to see what Josh Berry can do with a little bit more experience.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw it, but there's going to be 2 world-class drivers
Oh
at
yeah,
Coda.
Kimi Räikkönen's coming back in Project 91.
Yes.
For
So
Coda.
Jordan versus Kimi is going to be a fun little race.
It's going to be
I
awesome.
think Jordan has the edge.
Yeah. All right.
Kimi Räikkönen, yeah, dude, he's a fantastic sports car driver, and I guess we could maybe do a pre-race road course Coda show-off or something episode or whatever you want to call it one day. But I think that Jordan has the advantage because Kimi Räikkönen is a high downforce open wheel driver, whereas Jordan Taylor has been driving GT cars for so long, and they are more in the lines of the cars that he is used to driving. Joe's researching right now what Kimi Räikkönen has done. I could see it. He's like, "What? Kimi Räikkönen?"
No, give me a sec. I'm trying to set up a joke. Okay. So you talk about doing a pre-race show for Coda.
I mean, maybe.
So we're gonna do that, but we're gonna tie it into our Atlanta recap show. So that's what we're gonna do.
What
did I do?
One thing I wanted to mention was Chase Elliott's being out of the car.
Yeah.
In terms of a pretty big debate that was on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio.
Okay.
It was whether or not he should be granted a waiver since this was taken. He was injured in something personal rather than racing related.
Yeah.
I don't think it should even be a debate, but couple things that I think is noteworthy to bring up is in every single waiver request that has been brought to NASCAR, only one has been denied.
Yeah.
And it was, I believe it was for Grant Enfinger because
they couldn't
he
find
couldn't
sponsorship,
find sponsorship for his truck that 1 week. Every other one got a waiver.
Yeah.
So that ends that. The other thing is, I know we skipped over it really quickly in our pre-race prediction, preseason predictions for the playoffs. I was gonna say, watch out for Chase Elliott. If he doesn't get a win, I don't think he'll make it in on points. I never got to say it because last year it felt like he wasn't with it. He didn't really want to race. He didn't have motivation.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect him to be in this type of must-win situation where he has to win. But one key thing is last year he relied a ton on playoff points to go through the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's not going to have as many playoff points because he's not going to finish in the top 10 in points.
Right.
So that's going to be very interesting to see if he can get enough wins to, get a win to get in the playoffs and then maybe get enough wins to.
He'll just have to use the Christopher Bell approach and just win all the cutoff races.
Right.
That's a stressful way. That's not something I want to go through, to be honest.
All right. So coming up next week, NASCAR's still on the third leg of the West Coast swing. Phoenix is on deck. It's our first time seeing the new low downforce package on a short track. Who do you guys got for Phoenix? I'll let Adam go first. Who are you picking to win Phoenix?
All right, this driver went winless in 2022, except for one race. I feel like
you just took my driver.
Taken someone's driver.
You did just
he won last year's all-star race. If it's your driver, I don't feel sorry because
I take your driver every week.
you've
Yeah.
taken my driver last 2 weeks. So go find another one.
Okay.
I think Ryan Blaney is going to win Phoenix this weekend because, like I said in my playoff prediction, he's going to be the champion because he has Phoenix figured out. It's his best truck.
Mm-hmm.
He almost won last year. But yeah, my pick is Ryan Blaney. After last time he won was 2021, he will get a regular season win this week at Phoenix.
All right. Trevor.
Well, you get to come back on the show again, Adam, because you didn't pick my driver. And before the show started, I said that if Adam picks my driver because he got to pick first,
Yeah.
he was never coming back on the show, guys. For all the watchers out there, a little back history on why I'm saying this. So, I am going to go with Mr. Phoenix himself. I have to go with Mr. Phoenix just because I want to see Mr. Phoenix win. I feel like he could win here. This may not be the best choice after listening to the show and learning the information about the high downforce of these cars, but I am going to go with Kevin Harvick. I
All
would
right.
love to see him win at Phoenix in his last season. It would only be fitting because he was Mr. Phoenix for years. Nobody was beating him. He had very good finish, super close finish with Carl Edwards not too long ago. That's who I'm going with. I'm gonna eat my words. I already know it, but that's who I'm going with.
All right. Well, so my backup driver, since you guys took my primary driver, is a little bit of a controversial driver here on the JT Pitstop.
Point two.
He won.
Your opinion going to.
Yeah, he won the race last time we were at Phoenix and the championship.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the number 22, Joey Logano, to win Phoenix this weekend.
I can't believe you did that.
I find it interesting that we all picked Fords.
That is true.
I mean,
Well,
that's very interesting. If Kevin Harvick drove a damn Toyota, I would have went with him this year. I mean, I statistically, even if, and I think even if you go back, Fords have really done pretty well at Phoenix here of late, and I think last year they won both of them, right?
Yeah,
Who won the fall race?
Briscoe.
Yeah, so I mean, Fords have won, besides the championship race when Larson won, but with this new car, nobody's beat a Ford at Phoenix yet.
Yeah.
With the next gen car, so why not go with the one guy that, just in the one crew chief? I mean, it's not that this crew chief wasn't the crew chief when Kevin Harvick was winning all of these races, and I think it would just be so fitting to watch Kevin Harvick win this race. That's who I'm going with. My realistic pick, though, would have probably be Kyle Busch.
Yeah. Well, I think Kevin Harvick's a good pick because he had a lot of success at Phoenix in 16, 17, and 18 when they started taking a bunch of that downforce off the car. And I think going to Phoenix this time with taking more downforce off that car, I think that's kind of throwing this race right into a guy like Kevin Harvick's hands for a track that he's really good at. So I absolutely think he's going to be a factor in that race, but I don't think he's going to beat the 22.
I don't know about that. You didn't think he was going to beat the 12, but since Adam picked the 12, then you got to go with the 22. I mean, let's just be real.
And I have bad news for you guys.
Okay.
I just looked at the weather forecast. It's going to be 82 and sunny. So no shot at
rain. We don't get no rain.
Dude,
that's okay.
That been...
I want it to rain so badly at Martinsville because I think that would be the best first track for raining on the ovals. I'm hoping for rain at Martinsville.
Bring some fire hoses and hook it up to the fire hydrant outside and just start wetting the track.
You just need to.
Right
somebody needs to build a trackside sprinkler system.
Yeah.
Like just sprinkle the water on the racetrack.
Like halfway through the green flag first stage. Just turn
Yeah.
the sprinklers on and let them rip. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, I think Phoenix is going to be an interesting race. I think it'll be better than the both Phoenix races last year. Usually when you try to package like this, it kind of throws everybody for a loop because the first time
Yep.
seeing people driving with it. So I think this is going to be an interesting race, and it will also kind of shape us up for how the rest of the season is going to go when we get to more of these smaller road courses. So another fantastic show. Anybody have any closing thoughts on this week's JT Pitstop talking about Las Vegas?
Thanks, Adam, for coming out.
Thank you.
Coming out. Appreciate it. Adam's usually our behind the scenes expert
Yeah,
that's in the chat area
he's like
telling
the
us all the facts that we don't know because I mean me
Yeah.
and Joe aren't really the brightest people out there,
we're
but
not.
you know, Adam's like, no, actually this is what happened,
Yeah.
just so you know, and then we're like, oh yeah, all right, you're right, okay, yeah, thanks, Adam. So
Yeah,
we appreciate you coming out, man.
He's
It's
basically the
always
producer.
fun to have the controversial guy that me and Adam, we don't always see eye to eye on everything, so it's nice to have that kind of back and forth. So
Of course.
I appreciate you.
Well, someone's got to be right and someone's got to be wrong. So I
Yeah,
came on the show.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're usually right. Trevor is wrong, and I'm like halfway wrong.
Hey, fuck both of you.
No, Trevor gets things right quite a bit.
Yeah. But we love picking on him because
Oh,
he
of
picks on
course.
me behind the scenes.
It's the back and forth because I'll make fun of Trevor. Trevor will make fun of me. You guys go and make fun of each other. It's great. It's all in good fun.
A little marriage tip. When your wife says you're wrong, don't tell her to fuck off. Alright, that's like a little wife tip for you. I've tried it doesn't work.
That is some fantastic advice, everybody. Marriage advice from Trevor. When your wife tells you you're wrong,
on the Fired
don't
Up
just
section
tell her
of
to
next
frick
week,
off.
though, I will try to tell my wife that she is wrong, and I might wake up dead. So, all right.
As far as next week's show, quick remark. I will not be able to host the show on Wednesday next week, because I will be getting ready to head out to the racetrack for the 12 Hours of Sebring next week. So I will keep you guys updated on social media about when exactly we're going to do the show next week. So stay tuned. And thank you once again, Adam, for tuning in. Thank you, Trevor, for being part of the JT Pitstop. And I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your Wednesday night. And we'll catch you all at the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.